she is bent in the process but not broken. So if you see in Nanjundi Kalyana, for instance, where the protagonist Devi is ready to embrace her new wifedom, her new subjectivity as a tamed wife, though that's not the role we remember in the film. Anyway, by the end of the film, she gets sufficiently tamed. In Abba a Hudugi, she's a very self-conscious, Sharmishta is a very self-conscious female character who understands exactly what marriage has done to her. So it's kind of a dialogue with, or a confrontation, I would think, with the Shakespearean play, rather than simply an adaptation into the Kannada context. So, what are the main plot elements that reappear in different films? Only in Abba a Hudgi and Nanjundi Kalyana do we have a key plot element: the elder sister's marriage with which the father or parents insist has to take place before the younger ones. So why the hurry to get the elder to the younger one already has a suitor, or as in the Shakespearean play, a number of suitors who are eager to marry her, but the father insists that he will not get her married till her elder sister is married. So only in these two films does this plot element get replicated. Devi, Nanjundi Kalyana and Sharmishta and Abba a Hudgi spurn all suitors and stand as obstacles to the marriage of the younger sisters. Their suitors are ready to marry, and so are the girls, that is, the suitors of the younger sisters. In fact, there are two in both the films. But the parents will have none of it. The suitors of the younger sister who wishes to marry the elder sister. So their help is also solicited, gained in trying to marry Devi and Sharmishta. This plot element does not figure in any of the other films. Next slide. If a significant plot element of Taming of the Shrew is the husband Petruchio taming his wife Kate, it is only in Nanjundi Kalyana that this plot element actually occurs. That is something that continues even after the marriage. In Bahadur Gandu and Veera Kesari, the taming of the princess by the male commoner happens well before marriage. And in fact, Kamala, the princess in Bahadur Gandu, played by Jayanti, says she is ready to renounce her throne immediately after being crowned queen in order to marry Panju, the commoner. While in Veera Kesari, the lame king finally hands over his kingdom to his tamed daughter Mandaramala. Both his daughter Mandaramala as well as the kingdom to Narsimha Nayaka. So it's not after the marriage that the taming happens, but something that happens much before. So keep this in mind, because I'll be drawing certain kinds of conclusions, or attempting to draw certain conclusions from this. Next slide. In Abba a Hudgi, the narrative does not seem to repose much confidence in the husband Sarvottama to carry out the task. He is unequal to the task of taming, actually. Much to the despair of Suresh. So Suresh is the character played by Dr. Rajkumar in the film, who wishes to marry Sharmishta's younger sister. Sarvottama hardly seems equal to the task, though he promises to do the needful. So he's eager to, tame the elder sister and marry her, but it's not something that he can easily do. In fact, he's quite a failure at the task. Finally, it is with the help of actors in a drama company that he tricks Sharmishta into accepting her lot as a wife. So he can't do it. Remember how Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew virtually wields the whip, denies her food, denies her sleep as a way of taming her. Here, it's not something that the husband can do at all. In fact, if we have time and we do watch the clip, you will see how unequal he seems to be to the task. Next slide, please. In Mane Tumbida Hennu, if anyone needs taming, it is the mother, Gundi or Gundama, who endlessly harasses her stepdaughter, husband, and everyone around, reserving her affection for her own daughter and son. So that's why I feel this is coming from elsewhere. Dr. Tarakeshwar in his presentation was talking about how Parsi drama was an amalgamation of so many different elements. I think Taming of the Shrew in a very, very filtered way is probably coming into Mane Tumbida Hennu. I'm sure there are other such models available in Indian stories, folk stories, epics, and other places, for such women, particularly stepmothers who seem to trouble their stepdaughters. When the widowed Gundi and her daughter, whose husband turns out to be a petty thief and is imprisoned, are sent out of the house by the daughter-in-law, it is their poverty and life on the streets which brings them to their senses. So there is no man really who is, who seems to be up to the task even in this film. It's more because of being pushed out of the house by their daughter-in-law when they find themselves on the street that they learn their lesson and become, suitably reformed and less arrogant. So that's why I think that this film is most remote from Taming of the Shrew. But as I said, Gundama Katha has probably an angle of the husband taming Gundama's daughter, probably taken from a Shakespearean play. Next slide. There is visual and verbal elaboration of the process of taming, depriving Nanjundi Kalyana respectively. Husband does not allow his wife to eat, denies her various amenities. In fact, she's a city-bred girl in Nanjundi Kalyana, and he takes her to the village, puts her in a small, tiny little cottage, does not give her any of the amenities that she's used to, and slowly in that process wears her down. In Veera Kesari, when she is kidnapped by Narsimha Nayaka, there is some offering made to her of plain food, which is promptly rejected by her as food fit for cattle. But we do not see Mandaramaya suffer greatly. So the techniques used to tame these women don't get deployed in these films. The mother of Narsimha Nayaka puts her foot down against insulting another woman, and so he has to send her back to the palace soon. She transforms when she sees what a proud, humane, and decent lot these common people are. So it's a kind of, she undergoes a kind of moral transformation after witnessing the family of Narsimha Nayaka, not by any tactics, violent tactics that are used against her. Next slide, please. In Mane Tumbida Hennu, the mother-daughter duo are forced on the streets, and it is killing hunger, which forces the daughter to eat the food discarded by others. This teaches her a lesson in humility, no doubt, but it's not the husband handing out this lesson to her, as I already mentioned. In Abba Hudugi, there is no possibility of the husband depriving her of food or comforts to teach her a lesson. In fact, Sharmishta is more than equal to her husband's attempts at trying to deprive her. When he says, "You won't eat food," she says, "Of course I will eat food." And then when he says, "You have to eat food," she says, "Of course I will not eat." So it's almost like it's turning on its head the way in which Taming of the Shrew works. When she goes away from the city, this is also something, that as researchers in cinema, we often come across this problem. The version of Abba Hudagi that is available to us on YouTube seems to have certain missing parts. For instance, how does Sharmishta even agree to marry? She is the president of an anti-marriage women's league. in the film. So how does she even agree to marry? We don't know, because there's a jump, and the next moment we see her, she's gone to a village to reside, and in fact it looks like the husband has taken her to the village to teach her a lesson, but she says this is all fine. This is where I like it very much. You people, you don't understand the folks around here, whereas I empathize with them. So everything that is attempted by the husband as a taming device is appropriated by her, for her own ends. The love that she watches. So finally, it is the love that she watches expressed in song and dance by a couple of forest dwellers, and a play which is enacted by hired performers that transforms Sharmishta. So it's not so much the husband himself, it is the husband, but through these kind of devious means, by using actors to try and do the job for him. Next slide, please. In Nanjundi Kalyana, Raghuchandra alias Nanjundi has to fulfill a promise made by his father to his now estranged sister's family. So how is this prototype of Taming of the Shrew used in each of the films that I have mentioned? Raghuchandra has to carry out his father's promise. The father has promised his now estranged sister that he will get his son married to her daughter, but there is no connection for many years between the two families. So if Raghuchandra were to approach Devi's father, he will get thrown out. So it is, in this complicated scenario that he takes on the persona of Nanjundi, a long lost brother of Devi's mother, and enters the house. Raghuchandra lives in the village, but Devi is city bred. She's bold, she's westernized in her ways, college educated, English speaking, with a mind of her own. Our Raghuchandra is, someone who is of the village. He belongs, he lives in the village. How do you, kind of bridge this gap? The man in the marital relation is supposed to have the upper hand, right? In this instance, he comes from the village, whereas she is city bred, and therefore in a position of greater social power and authority. Taming of the Shrew becomes a useful prototype to equalize this kind of imbalance and make the husband gain an upper hand. So in Taming of the Shrew, we get no sense of difference in class or social standing between Petruchio and Kate. But in this film, the taming of Devi is a part of realigning her social position to that of her marital home. How does this prototype, how is it useful in Veera Kesari and Bahadur Gandu? It is to make a blinkered girl. In both these films, the central character, the one who is, tamed within quotes, is blinkered by her superior social position. She is a princess, and her sense of entitlement and privilege, becomes in the way of her seeing the merit, bravery, and superiority of a commoner who is a social inferior, and to recognize him as a man, which she does not do to begin with. The princess is also a channel or a conduit between the ruler and the ruled. It is through her that the powerless, hunted down subjects try to reach those in power. How she regards them matters when she is in power, because she is supposed to now become queen. So how she rules over them? Will she perpetuate a reign of terror against them? Will she be an oppressive ruler, or will she be sympathetic to the common people when she gains power? So this is where Taming of the Shrew, the prototype of Taming of the Shrew, becomes useful in Bahadur Gandu and Veera Kesari. How does it how does this prototype get used or useful for Abba Hudugi? It is useful to delineate a strong anti-marriage proto-feminist character. Think about it. We are talking about 1959 film. We have a proto-feminist female character in the film who is president of a league of women who are against marriage, who see it as an institution of enslavement of women, who see marriage as an encumbrance in the way of women's achievements in various fields. So she's actually a public figure, who runs this organization, this institution, and is the president of that. Another accomplished woman who's part of the organization, who's said to be an MLA, is a married woman, and therefore there's a lot of tension between Sharmishta and this woman. She's part of the women's group who acknowledges the expansiveness of the vision of the league, but thinks its means are too radical. So she keeps trying to, kind of bring them down at various instances. Even when Sharmishta is married, she's more than ready to take on her husband through her argumentativeness, which he can rarely match. So the shrew of Taming of the Shrew is provided a rational, discursive base, which may be difficult to digest for all around, but that is because she's well ahead of her times. In Mane Tumbida Hennu, this is a prototype which is useful because there are a couple of shrewish women, the mother and her daughter, who are mean, quarrelsome, loud, and manipulative. But as I said, I think there are other models that are available, and TOTS, Taming of the Shrew, does not figure very much. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah. Next one. Next one. Next. Yeah, I've gone quite ahead in my presentation. Yeah. Next. From Abba Hudugi to Bahadur Gandu, now I'm kind of trying to conclude my talk. If there is time, we'll watch a few clips. Otherwise, this will be the conclusion. Abba Hudugi offered a prototype of a modern but misunderstood woman critiquing patriarchy from a position, though it is not named so, which is not far from a feminist one. So it's not named as a feminist position in the film, but it's not far. So that's why I said, you can regard her as a proto-feminist. When Suresh, played by Dr. Rajkumar in Abba Hudugi, husband of Sharmishta's younger sister, by way of his wishes for Sharmishta at the end of the narrative, says that she would give birth to a boy or a girl just before the appearance of Shubham on the screen. Sharmishta is asked to take everyone's blessings. So, played by Dr. Rajkumar says, fine, I mean, you can have either a boy or a girl, give birth to either a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. I felt a pang, when he said, it does not matter if it's a boy or a girl, but let there be no one like you who will follow, and I think it almost seemed like a prophetic pronouncement or has proved to be a curse in Kannada cinema because such female characters virtually disappear from the Kannada screen in the coming years. If they do briefly make, a blazing appearance like in Miss Leelavati, a decade, a little over a few years later, it is only to be taught a lesson. Otherwise, such women rarely come up on the Kannada screen. Next slide. Dr. Rajkumar, who is on the periphery of Abba Ahudugi, gains center stage by the time we come to Bahadur Gandu. So this also tells us something about the nature of stardom itself in Kannada. Mainavati plays the central role in Abba Ahudugi. Dr. Rajkumar is one of the peripheral figures in the film, among a number of others. There's Narsim Raju. There are a whole host of actors in the film essaying various characters, and Dr. Rajkumar is also one of them. He of course has a duet, but really he's not the hero as we know him, let's say in Bahadur Gandu. As the male star becomes the fulcrum of cinema, two things can be noticed. So, over film history, I'm making these two comments. The line between the man wooing and taming or harassing the girl is being erased. Or, to put it differently, this becomes the mode of manifestation of love. So you can see it in songs like Hey Ninagagi or Swabhimanada Nalle. We'll listen probably to one or two of them in a while. So much so that in the present day discussion of female consent, women are enjoying this process of being tamed or harassed or being pursued in the male-centric films, male star-centric films. This is kind of the prototype which gets followed, that the male star keeps on his pursuit of the woman, of the of his partner, even when she says when she's not interested, hoping that she will finally say yes in the end. The male hero is not only a lover, and as you will see from the song that I'll play for you, the male hero is not only a lover but also the moral and social epicenter of the film. In Bahadur Gandu, we will see that. And one of his so called noble tasks is to suitably reform the female in the film. So this becomes his manifestation of moral superiority by trying to teach her a lesson. If we have time, I would like to play, these short clips from the film. Okay. So, in which case, the clips are there. You can enjoy it, maybe later. One clip. Then please let us play Abba Ahudgi. Not a Bahadur Gandu. Abba Ahudgi, please. 1:23:22 to whatever time. We'll just stop in a minute or so.
ಹಳ್ಳಿಯವರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದಿಲ್ಲಿಯವರು ಸಹ ಈಗ ಸರಿಯಾದ ಸ್ಥಾನ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತೀನಿ. ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ? ಅನಾಗರಿಕ ಆಸಕ್ತಿಯ ಜನರ ಗುಂಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ನಾಗರಿಕರ ಗುಂಪು. ನೀವು ಅಷ್ಟು ದಿವಸಗಳಿಂದ ಕಸದ ಕಡೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಅನಾಗರಿಕರು, ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಕಾಲ್ಗುರುಗಳು. ಅವರು ಸಹಸ್ರಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಾರ್ಥಕ್ಕೆ ಬಲಿಬಿದ್ದು ನೊಂದವರು. ಇನ್ನು ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರ ಸ್ಥಳ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಾಡಿದೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಥಳ ಅವರಿಗೆ. ಆ ಜನರನ್ನ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಕರ್ತಿರ್ತೀನಿ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಕುಡಿಸ್ತೀನಿ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಊಟ ಹಾಕ್ತೀನಿ. ದೇವರು ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ದೇವರು ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ. ನಿರ್ಮಿತ್ ಹೋಗಿ ತನ್ನದೇ ಆದ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಪ್ರಾಣಿ, ನೊಂದಿರುವ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಯೊಂದನ್ನು ಬಾ ಕೂಡು ಅಂತ ಮಾತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಓಡೋದಾಗಿದ್ದೆ ಅವನು ಮೋರಿ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಹರಿಸ್ತು. ಅವನು ದೇವರೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅವನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅನಿಸಿದ ದೇವರು, ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ದೇವರಲ್ಲ. ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ದೇವರಿರೋದು ಆ ಗುಂಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಗುಲಾಮತ್ವದ ಹೊರಹೊತ್ತು ನರಳ್ತಾರೋ ಆ ಜನರ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ. ಅವರನ್ನು ಹೋಲಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ದೇವರನ್ನು ಹೋಲಿಸಿದಾಗೆ ನಾನಿಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತೀನಿ, ನೀವು ಹೋಗಿ. ಈ ಅನಿಷ್ಟಗಳಿಗೋಸ್ಕರವೇ ಗಂಡಂದ್ರಂದ್ರೆ ಗಂಡ ಅಂತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಯೋಚಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ದಾಸವಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಹೆಂಡತಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು, ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನೇ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋ ಸಾಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು, ವಿದ್ಯುತ್ ಬಂತು.
Yeah. So just to translate very quickly the clip, She's married now and she's been taken to the countryside. So she has to live among what is said in the film as Kadu Kurubas. The husband says, "How can we live among them?" And she says, "They are, real God's people. How can God come and reside in our house?" Is what he says, and she says, "I refuse to have anything to do with such a God. Who cannot acknowledge His creation." So you can see she's someone who has thought about things. So she's not someone who is simply arrogant as an attitude, but someone who has an ideologically thought out position, and how rare that is for Kannada cinema. Thank you very much, all of you, for listening to me, and thanks again to the organizers.
Thank you, ma'am, for your fruitful insights. I request Mahendra, sir.
Thank you. It was an excellent talk by Professor Nikhila ma'am, who is a professor at TFLU Hyderabad. And our talk was titled "And Thus I'll Curb Our Mad and Headstrong Humor, Taming of the Shri in Kannada Cinema." So what exactly she did in her talk was she looked at the prototypes of um, timing of show in Kannada iconic films which are produced between 1958 to 1989. Based on the films, which were produced between 1958 and 1989, she interpreted the prototypes which are present in the story as well as techniques. So she has interpreted five films, starting from Mane Tumbida Hennu, Abba Ha Hudgi, Veera Kesari, Bahadur Gandu, Nanjundi Kalyana. And it was an excellent talk. We have, I think, 5 to 10 minutes with us. We can take a few questions, one or two questions, if there are any.
Thank you, Nikhila ma'am, for the talk. Um, uh, when we mentioned that such characters like Sharmishta were virtually absent. Of course, similar to Sharmita, I think is difficult to find in Kannada cinema in the later decades. But however, there was always also a rise of some category called, I think, Lalita Gopalan dance that category as avenging women cinema as well. So, and which I think develops much later till the point you have stopped analyzing. Of course, I think that like how would you look at it parallel to the rise of startup, male startup in Kannada cinema, alongside the generation of this kind of a category, which Malashri was the poster girl for, alongside other actresses as well. I'm just curious to know how do you analyze this? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahima, for that very interesting observation. In a way, you can say the transformation, of this kind of a figure, the one who is questioning, who has the upper hand, becomes someone who is almost like a virago, someone who takes on the world as the male hero does, right? So it's almost as if she's taking upon herself. Malashri herself played a number of such roles in the form of police and right. So what the male hero can do, I can do even better, right? So, but it's more, it's more like, let us say, drawing the conventions, the protocols from male stardom. Whereas here, I thought it's coming from a position that becomes unavailable to Kannada cinema later on, which is, for instance, to put to question social norms, to put to question the situations that women find themselves in society, in institutions like family, right? So that is something that don't, and if they do, like I was mentioning Miss Leelavati, if they do, it's only to teach them a lesson in the end, right? So I was tracing this trajectory of women whose positions are not coming from a position that is already established by the, they are attempting to forge in these films. But as we go on, I felt that this was not available. Maybe it would be interesting to see the metamorphosis, the way you have leaked the trajectory. Maybe it would be interesting to see that as well. Yeah.
Thank you. One minute.
Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful, insightful session. So, I have two more examples. I don't know whether we can include them in the same league during the same period of time. Like in 1986, we had Anuraga Araditu, Rajkumar and Madhvi's movie, where Madhvi plays the character of Asha Devi, who is the company owner, and Rajkumar plays the role of Shankar, who is the chief mechanic. So I think that also falls to this category, Taming of the Shrew. And one more example is of Mududida Tavare Araditu, Anant Naga and Lakshmi. So during the same period of time, I think they have this similar storyline. I think they can also be put into this category. Means I just wanted your opinion. I thought the storyline is similar.
Actually, I haven't, come up with this list of 5 films by watching a large corpus of Kannada films. The time was too short. I had less than a week. So I've just taken the films which, others have said is based on Taming of the Shrew. But even as I was writing this paper, I was thinking of so many similar characters that are there in Kannada films. Ramaswamy, Krishnaswamy, Kelasavanno Madonave, ಯಾವ film ಅದು?
I don't remember, ma'am. Srinath and Vishnuvardhan,
Yeah.
Manjula and all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, it is that Lakshmi plays a dual role in that film. Khiladi Jodi. So she plays a dual role in the film. One who is somewhat mellow, and the other one who is a Gandubiri.
Yes.
So there are a number of such Kannada films, and I had all of them in the back of my mind.
Even the Malashri is Rani Maharani.
Yes, sure. So, but as I said, my corpus, I didn't want to make it too expansive. Time was short, and also these were the films that are, that other scholars before me have mentioned as somewhat similar. But this is, a character that keeps recurring. Adane nanu heliddu. You can think of so many Rajnikant's films who makes a career out of taming women. So fans of Dr. Rajkumar like Sir Basraj Donor sir will feel bad when I say this, but it's not just Dr. Rajkumar. This is the nature of male stardom in Indian cinema.
Thank you, ma'am.
With this, we have come to an end of this particular session. I thank Professor Nicola ma'am for insightful presentation. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, Vandana.
I thank the resource persons, Professor B.N. Balaji and Professor Nikila H. for enriching our knowledge. And I also thank Mahendra sir. With the closure of this session, I request Dr. Prakash Balikai to proceed with the next session.
Once again, good evening to all. Bhagyasri, can you play the song?
ನಾವಾಡುವ ನುಡಿಯೇ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ, ಚಿನ್ನದ ನುಡಿ, ಸಿರಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ. ನಾವಿರುವ ತಾಣದ ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ, ಅಂಗದ ಗುಡಿ, ಚಂದದ ಗುಡಿ. ನಾವಾಡುವ ನುಡಿಯೇ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ, ನಾವಿರುವ ತಾಣದ ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ, ಅಂದದ ಗುಡಿ, ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ, ಚಂದದ ಗುಡಿ, ಶ್ರೀಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ. ಹಸುರಿನ ಬನಸಿರಿಗೆ ಒಲಿದು ಸೌಂದರ್ಯ ಸರಸರಿ ಕರೆಗಿಳಿದು ಹರಿಯುವ ನದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈಜಾಡಿ ಕನಸಲಿ ನಲಿಯುತ್ತೋರಾಡಿ ಚೆಲುವಿನ ಬಲೆಯ ಬೀಸಿದಳು ಈ ಗಂಧದ ನುಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಲೆಸಿದಳು ಇದು ಯಾರ ತಪಸ್ಸಿನ ಫಲವೋ ಈ ಕಂಗಳು ಮಾಡಿದ ಪುಣ್ಯವೋ ನಾವಿರುವ ತಾಣದ ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ ಚಿಮ್ಮುತ್ತ ಓಡಿದ ಜಿಂಕೆಗಳು ತುಳಿದಾಡುತ್ತ ನಲಿದಿವೆ ನವಿಲುಗಳು ಮುಗಿಲನ್ನು ತುಂಬಿಸುವ ಆಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೂಗಾಡುತ್ತ ನಿಂತ ಮರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಡುತ್ತಿರೆ ಬಾನಾಡಿಗಳು ಎದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂತಸದ ಹೊನಲು ಇದು ವನ್ಯ ಮೃಗಗಳ ಲೋಕವು ಈ ಭೂಮಿಗೆ ಇಳಿದ ನಾಕವೋ ನಾವಾಡುವ ನುಡಿಯೇ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ ನಾವಿರುವ ತಾಣದ ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ ಅಂದದ ಗುಡಿ ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ ಚಂದದ ಗುಡಿ ಶ್ರೀ ಗಂಧದ ಗುಡಿ ಆಹಾ
This is the fourth session, Dr. Rajkumar and Indian cinema. I request the chief guests, Professor Nikila H. Madam, and Dr. Manjulakshi Madam, and Professor Basuraj Donu Sir to come on the dais. In his absence, I welcome Professor Bhattu Satyanarayan Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Central University of Karnataka, and all the dignitaries, resource persons, research scholars, dear students. As you all know, today is 93rd birth anniversary of Dr. Rajkumar. Singanalluru Puttaswamaya Mutturaj. Born on 24th April 1929, who passed away on 12th April 2006, he has brought a new message to the society through his films and also through his life. He has been, though he passed away, he has been a cultural icon, matinee idol, ನಟ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮ, ಬಂಗಾರದ ಮನುಷ್ಯ, ವರನಟ, ಗಾನಗಂಧರ್ವ, ಪದ್ಮಭೂಷಣ್, Dada Saheb Phalke Award, and a national award for his singing, who bagged a national award for his singing, the only veteran actor from India who has received Kentucky Colonel Award, United States, long ago in the 60s. To this unique program, once again I welcome all the dignitaries and request Professor Nikila H. Madam to share her views on Dr. Rajkumar and Indian cinema. Madam, please.
A very good afternoon. I'm back again, this time to speak in a more free-flowing fashion about Dr. Rajkumar. It's a momentous occasion. We are talking about him on his birthday here. And I remember Professor Basuraj Donor had organized another seminar on Dr. Rajkumar. It's so rare, that Kannada cinema gets discussed in an academic forum like this. So, first of all, I want to congratulate